Good evening, good evening, good evening. It looks like everything should be okay here in the back of the house. Let me just make sure I don't have anything screwy going on. Took just a minute. I had to change my stream codes just at the last second. It looks like we're good to go in-house. Yeah, YouTube isn't sending out notices or anything apparently. They changed a bunch of stuff. They admitted it to us and then just said, "Oh well, that's too bad." Whatever. They didn't seem to care at all. So I was a little perturbed, but that's YouTube for you. You take it or leave it, I guess. I just wish they'd send out notices. I've had a lot of people tell me that. We're going to talk about things going on. Obviously, if you saw the video from yesterday, there was a law in my state that says I can't run an online auction on eBay or pretty much anywhere without an auctioneering license. After that was posted, and again, I thank Ina over at e-commerce bites for that call out on that one because I didn't see it. State never sent a thing to me. We're a employer in the state. You know, we're in their database. We're listed as an online reseller. We've got employees with EINs. We've got DBAs, all tied to the state. So they had every means to get in touch with us and let us know, hey, this is going on or it's not going on. And they even doubled down on it and updated it in January. Somebody else pointed to me, and sure enough, that's true. So they just added a few little tweaks to it that don't really change anything. Now, this is, I hate to say it, but this is probably one of the biggest threats for resellers who do, auctions, to be honest with you. This right now is probably the biggest threat. Through the post from yesterday, a bunch of people commented that it's illegal in their area. Now, I've had people say, well, I called the state and this and that. Well, it goes by county, by precincts, municipality, city. There's township even. There's laws in different areas, like a big city might have a law, but the state doesn't. So you better at least check in your area that you're not violating anything. We talked to last year about eBay having a back door allowing law enforcement and government agencies the ability to come in and see stuff and get access in there and shut stuff down on their own. So they're able to see where you're selling and how you're selling. That's the point. Don't ever assume that they don't know what's going on. Somebody else. The information's there. It's very easily accessible. In my state, Ohio, there are some exemptions. $10,000 is your limit on auctions you can sell. If you sell over $10,000 total for the entire year, it's not per person, it's per business. And if you go over that in auctions, you can't do it anymore. You have to go get an auctioneering permit. At least that's what it says as of now. It could change. It could be a mistake. But as of now, everybody that I've talked to on the phone here in the state, officials and state people and stuff at the Department of Agriculture who's running this, everybody says it includes online auctions such as eBay as well. This would pretty much exclude me from the ability to do whatnot at all going forward. I don't do it. I've done it in the summer before it was a law. I couldn't do it. Didn't know there was a law. I still, it started after I stopped doing the 4 whatnots. But I legally, in this state, can't sell whatnot without a auctioneer's permit as of now, right this second. It's not like something that's going to pass. It's already been signed into law last year in September. And I just found out about it because other people were hit with notices. So, and we had a survey, a business census is what it was. And it was it was required. It had my governor's picture on it. And it said it was required by law, and it was a federal one, and it's shared between the state and all. The 2 questions were, am I doing still online business? And I think the other one was specifically what percentage of my business was an auction. If I'm not mistaken, that was basics of what the 2 questions census survey was here for us. I didn't think a thing about it until now. And I actually went back in after talking with Ina over at e-commerce bites. Again, I write for Ina, so I've got a connection with her. But there seems to be a little more going on, would be my assumption from some of the other comments. Now, I looked for this in other states just briefly. I didn't dig deeply into it. There are other states that do have this same law basically in effect. I've had 4 or 5 other people specifically say one specific state. Now, I'm not going to call it out because I didn't personally look it up, and I'm not going to spend the time to verify that. But look into it. There are some states, like 4 or 5, from the way I understand it, as well as townships, cities, and regular local county entities that you can't do it in their boundaries without having some form of license. New York, on the other hand, got rid of auction houses having to have any license or regulation apparently at this point, which is really weird. I didn't look into auctioneers themselves, but again, this is really bothersome to me because I just looked into this. Another YouTuber here from Ohio, I'm not going to call out his name just in case he's still doing it and he doesn't have one. I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but it was on one of his feeds. He was doing an auction. I asked him about it. You know, I thought you had to have a auctioneer's license. And back then, I went on and basically, if you own the items, they were yours. Even if you were, doing to them to resell, you could do it. Well, that's not what it says anymore. But I looked into all this, and back then you had to apprentice. The only reason I didn't get the auctioneers, apply and stuff, you had to go to school, you had to take classes. It was thousands of dollars for the classes, and then you had to intern under somebody here in the state for like 6 months or a year. So it could theoretically take you a year and a half to get your auctioneering license here in the state prior to September of 2022. Again, this relates to other states. This isn't just my state, from everything other people have told me. I've had a lot of people, dozens and dozens of people personally reach out and say, hey, this is the law. And they even shared links to their state sites and a couple local sites too. There was a couple that the states didn't have any requirements, but where they lived did, and they had no clue. Had no clue they were in code violations. Now, the one here in this state is backable by court orders and things like that. So it's not, there is a legal entity binding to it. They can cease and desist your business. They can shut it down. They can do a bunch of stuff when it comes to this aspect of it here. Hang on just a second. I don't want to forget anybody. Well, thank you very kindly, Auction Monkey. Very kindly. Agreed. Rumors are pending adding auctions, scrapyards, and consignment places to the $600 IRS rule. The IRS rule, a lot of people get that confused, and probably a half a dozen people did on the video. That $600 rule has always been that way. The only difference now is that the site you sell on has to report it. Before that, you had to do 20,000 or whatever it was before they had to report it. Now they just drop the reporting number. It doesn't change what you had to pay before, now, or in the future. It's the same thing as it's always been here. I could see about adding auctions and scrapyards. Consignment places, from what would always have to have been on there, from what I understand. Scrapyards would have at least been covered through the commerce here in this state. I looked into all this because I literally wanted to see how hard it was to get the auctioneer license, because I was debating on running some of my own local ones here in the past. But I wasn't going to, you don't have to get paid. They don't pay you if you intern under somebody. So you're going out there 2-3 days a week and spending 5 hours 2 or 3 nights a week. You could be for a year, and you're not getting a dime out of that, just to be the intern, just so you can get it. Now, again, they removed all of the apprentice programs. Now, let's talk about why this law comes into effect. I had some people post, so I'm inquisitive. I called a couple of auctioneers that I've dealt with in the past. Auctioneers that have an auctioneering license and are licensed here in the state and have been for years. Whatnot. And again, this isn't hyperbolic or anything. This is literally what I was told, that, it was fine and dandy. Like HiBid's mostly people who have auctioneering license. A large chunk of them are auction houses who are permitted and licensed and the whole works. That's like the majority from what I understand on HiBid. Whatnot, it's all just people, just anybody. And there's the competition is not fair for someone who has to pay $3,000-$4,000, have interns in their establishment, have law issues they have to keep up with, have to update it every year, and update classes every year. They have to be bonded, and the bond back in the old way was fairly high. We're bonded only because we have a business owner's policy, and that was part of the process there. But there's a lot to it back then. So it wasn't unfair that somebody, Joe Schmo, some 18-year-old who doesn't have any business experience or knowledge on whatnot, can just come out there and take business away from somebody who's invested $3,000-$4,000 a year, or whatever the case may be, for license permits, classes, and to maintain a building and presence, because you have to have an auction facility. There's a whole bunch of rules differently than they are now. So a lot of the people who are, auctioneers have had issues with this. It's unfair business practices to allow people to do the exact same thing that they do, but without a permit. That's the whole thing where it comes down to. So in a way, whatnot, in my opinion and many others' opinions, is the cause of why I now can't sell an auction item in this state, because it was a competition that was on. This is the same argument that happens with Uber. You know, when Uber came in, folks had the same argument. They're running out of taxi companies, and on and on and on and on. You know, the gig economy's taken over, and the old way with taxis and permits and all that stuff is gone. So, and sometimes Ubers don't have permits. When a taxi driver has to keep a permit, a license, special insurance, and indemnity and bonding. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that goes with it. So there's the same line with Uber and taxi companies and deliveries, you know, local like drivers and things like that, is happening now with the auctions in my state as well as several other states. Now, government's taking record of this, the federal government. So that worries me. And again, I put two and two together, obviously, after the fact. I had no clue, because the census that they did for everybody was an online. It was the same process. It was all official. I double-checked the sites. It was real. It was secure. It was a government. You know, everything was right. So, you know, I didn't think anything of it. And now I obviously know what's going on. And it's, again, state information as well as government, federal government shared information. This is why this is probably the biggest risk, because the government could classify online sales differently at any time. So I was worried about other stupid things that, you know, I could sell on other platforms if I didn't want to deal with one or the other, on and on. But there's the ability in our state for them to shut down auctions in general. So if I was just living off of whatnot in my state, somebody could report me and then boom, I'm done. You know, there's fines, there's all kinds of stuff, that repercussions for me selling without an auctioneering license. So again, whatnot's off my table. I can't do anything on whatnot legally in this state right now. Now, people were going on, well, eBay's the one auctioning and not you, blah, blah, blah. I forgot the terminology. You have to watch the video from yesterday that I just put up. But the point is, eBay is like a facilitator, you know, just like the third party and all that stuff. So eBay isn't the one listing the items. You're the one listing the items. So you are doing it as an auction. Since there's an end time, it qualifies for an auction, and, you know, stated times, it's advertised ahead before the auction ends and all that kind of stuff. This came up 5, 6, well, more than that, probably 9 or 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. I remember this once before. And that's about the same time that eBay started doing bins, buy it now. So my assumption going back, and I'm going to dig into this just for my own personal curiosity's sake, eBay may have started the bins when the first round, a decade or more ago, came about with having permits for auctioneers. You know, what's classified as this, what's classified as that. And I know people say, oh, it's never going to happen. It's already happened in my state. Just like the sales tax, it happened in one state, and then as soon as every other state figured it out, now I pay. Well, I don't personally pay it. You know, the customers do, but now it's for every state. You know, now I had to process it here locally. Now it's all done by eBay or wherever I sell at. So I'm not comfortable assuming that this would just be one single state, because I know right now it's not. I've already had other people point me in the direction that there's other states that have it banned the same rule. You can look at the video. There's probably a half a dozen, maybe a dozen people who say it's banned in their state right now on that video. And it's only been up since real late last night, not even a day. So, again, take it as you will, but I'm shut down on auctions unless I seek an auctioneering, or the law is either clarified, changed, or altered. The U.S. Department, or the Ohio Department of Agriculture handles it, because it used to be stock auctions, and there wasn't many other auctions, livestock, real estate, that's all handled through them. So that's who literally has said on the phone that it's eBay's included. All the local ones have basically said the same thing. They all again, I might question if I heard one person say one and somebody else say something else, but everybody said the same thing. So again, they've never told us, and I found out through over e-commerce bites. And again, I've been slacking off on reading anything or doing anything online, but that's a good reason why I've always read Ina's. Again, I'm not saying that just because I write for her, but I've always read it. I've talked about her long before I even knew who she personally was, or knew her, or ever talked to her. So again, I didn't know except for someone else, and I'm very astute. I'm into the Ohio Business Gateway all the time. I mean, I file for my labor hours and stuff, weekly and stuff, and I've got an accountant just for our employees and stuff. So I mean, I'm up on everything, I thought, but man, that was a doozy. I don't really do auctions. I know I'm the auction professor. That name was thought up before, when auctions I was doing, but at this point, if it is this case, I am going to get my auctioneering license. I mean, it's a tax deduction. It's part of my business. I've got a building if I wanted to run auctions coming up. For those curious, we final approval of the house is ours. All we got to do is work out escrow, and we could sign as early as of today, the 15th of this month. It'll be ours, or 22nd at the latest. All we need is a lawyer from the title agency to set up the escrow for the septic issues, and I'm done. It's ours, land, property, building, house, everything. So I'm pretty excited. That happened today. For those in Patreon, I posted the email they sent me, at least the main section of it, today. So it was really nice to hear they're actually up to the time. I can get it sooner than later if I want. So anyway, it's holding on us. Again, with the auction aspect of it. Before eBay, you had to have an auctioneer's permit in a lot of states, just for security reasons and safety and bonding and how you have to hold the people's merchandise. When you auctioned off in a real, I know an auctioneer or two, and when you can't just keep the items if it doesn't sell. There's rules, pickup times for the original owner and sales and commissions, and you hold money. You have to hold money in accounts, and there's a lot more to it, and that's part of what you would learn with an auctioneer's permit or license. So even if I barely use it, I think I'd be interested in at least getting it just to see how it all works, and then I know both sides. Maybe I could auctioneer again, as I said, on get something else going too. It would be nice to know. They go over the legal aspects, and there's a lot of them. You can get yourself into some trouble with the auctioneering. I know you have to have a clean bill of health from the police department. They're going to run a background check. If you have even a misdemeanor for theft, you won't get one. So you've got to be a straight and straight arrow, on the line kind of person in this state to get it. Obviously things happen that weren't intentional, so I'm not trying to criticize somebody for anything. But that that's going to eliminate some people. This may be opportunity for me to get the license when a large number of people won't, and maybe create a business auctioning off $5 stuff for permits. Who knows? There's a lot of opportunities out there, and I'm going to take it as possibly another opportunity. I don't miss auctions themselves, but I guess it would be kind of neat to have something that the majority of other sellers wouldn't have, and I would be able to corner a little section of my own little world and market, I guess. So there's good and there's bad. If whatnot is your only source of business here in this state, you're probably have to get the permit, the license, or you could get in some trouble. And again, there's other folks who are now aware that their own state has the same rules. They didn't know it. So again, will they catch you? Who knows? But the information is 100% fully available from the sites you are selling on. There's no secrets. It's Sneakers, the movie Sneakers with Robert Redford in it. That always reminded me. There's no secrets anymore. Any of that stuff you're doing online, anybody can pretty much get to that almost. And eBay doesn't trash that data. They know if you've sold auctions. I'm sure there's a report. This seller did $5,000 worth of auctions in this year, and the rest of it was in bins. I'm sure there's a breakdown report. You can probably pull it. I don't look for it because I don't do auctions and haven't done them in since July or so, I think was the last one we did. I had to look it up even. It's been so long. And that was only on Whatnot, just to try it out, to give it the benefit of the doubt. And I'm so glad we didn't invest heavily, because I would be done with it. I wouldn't, even if I thought I could get away with it, I wouldn't want to, because I wouldn't want to risk the rest of my business just to make a few bucks on Whatnot. We made more with the same merchandise selling on eBay than Whatnot in the first place. So again, not a crack, but you got to watch out. Poshmark. I'm told that a large chunk of people are making a good chunk of change off of auctions. You run into the same risk of it. Again, I'm not wishing anything on anybody, because it would be nice to have the ability to run one once in a while, if that's the case, but I can't without getting that. So I would seriously look into it in your state to at least have an idea. What you do from there is on you. Whether you keep doing it, and even if you know it's illegal, is again your call. But the online selling is the biggest aspect of it, in person. And the auctioneer part, the law changed in the state, as well as at least 3 others that people told me about. The items, if you buy them to make a profit, that counts. Even if you own them outright, you still have to have a license. In the past, if they were your owned property, you could get away with auctioning stuff off without having it. But nowadays, if I'm buying it to make a profit, I have to have a permit in the state. So regardless, it doesn't matter. You're stuck, and it's just not worth the hassle or the risk factor, in my opinion, to do that. I've got something I want to ask someone's opinion on. Maybe there's some other leather lovers out there who like leather jackets. I got one a couple days ago, and I'll show it out in just a second here. It's one of my collective. I love leather jackets. I've got like 50 of them. All fit me. I wouldn't buy one if it didn't fit. I don't want to mess with selling them. Hey, yeah, let's see who we got in house. Hey, how'd you know? I probably butchered that. Welcome, welcome. I don't know. Maybe I've missed part of the first few comments. It only allows me to go back so far. Hey, again, thank you very kindly, Auction Monkey, for that super chat. Greatly appreciated. Mr. Mike, hey, Artie Mike, how you doing, Mike? Good to see you in house. Charles Lowe, welcome, welcome, welcome. Steven, hey, Steven, Mr. Holton, welcome. Warren Joe, hey, let me just shoot this out there too. Patreon video and YouTube membership went up yesterday. That's my sales from January on the count I share with you. Every item, every single item. You know the value. You saw how much we did. I told you how much we did overall in reselling in that video too. YouTube membership, same one. The other half will go up tomorrow. It's already done. If you stayed till the end after it came up with the continuing part 2, you'll see the mix-up that I did that I talked about too. I mess up stuff, here and there, and that's one of the ones that you'll see in that at the end there. It's just a behind the scenes, hey, I screwed up. You'll see the app I use to do videos and stuff in that little segment there. But anyway, just FYI. So tomorrow there'll be another one up here. I do have, I don't know, a bunch in the bank right now with videos that I've got pieces shot for, like 15 different segments here and there. Again, we're getting ready to move. Our closing date's coming up real quick now, maybe quicker than we thought. So there's going to be maybe some gaps here and there where I won't be around very much. We're taking our time, so we might take 60 days to move because I'm in no hurry. We can afford to pay where we're at and whatever. It doesn't matter, but we're going to take our time, and we have to do some work on the eBay building. It's a big building. It's like I don't remember the exact size, but the base section's like 1,800 or so. I think it's 1,850 or something square feet on the bottom, and we can have a second layer for 2,400 square feet extra storage, basically. So there's like 600 or 800 extra feet of floor space storage up, because it's like a tall building. So anyway, those in Patreon and YouTube membership, you've seen it, the building at least. I haven't shown out the house, but there's going to be videos on the move, how to set up a move, shelving recommendations, all that kind of stuff when we do this. It's going to be on the other channel. It's going to be on the Art Professor, so that channel will be back doing stuff. With the facility, I will have more abilities, time. I won't have to worry about moving stuff out of the way, and I'll have a lot more space to do a ton of other things, so there will be more routine videos on the other channel. Won't take away from these or any of the other feeds that we have. I've got 2 new employees ready to go once we get the building, so things are looking up. There's tons of parking and everything else. I mean, we've got some acreage, so it's not just a little house plot. Anyway, I gave a little more details on just a quick post on Patreon earlier today. For those in Patreon, I've responded to everything, community tab, the whole works. So if you had something on there, there was a few that I asked some questions on because it wasn't quite clear by the images. So again, hopefully that would be helpful. Again, if you do have some questions besides what I answered, just let me know back on those too, just FYI. So I'm totally caught up on there. Anyway, topic at hand is literally, changes going on. The biggest one I saw is, again, the biggest danger in my opinion is the fact that they could outlaw auctions in states. Again, it's not hyperbole. It's happened already in my state months ago. So it's not some fictitious thing that might happen. This is something that has happened in not just my state, but many others from what I can understand, as well as just cities. But anyway, let's see if somebody can give me an answer on something, and let's see if I got the right one here. Now, I'm a big aficionado of leather jackets. This is one I got. Didn't spend too much on it. This is a nice one. It's probably 80s, maybe late 70s. Berman's. It's a known company. It needed some work. I've already coated it, but this is my dilemma. And I'm careful on... I took a patch off. with an iron, and that's about all I could get off, and the rest of it was hard. Does anybody know what will take off the adhesive from the patch? It's Cafe Racer. It's identical to one. I've got 3 that look almost identical. I'll show you another one in just a second here, but the jacket I wear in the winter usually is one that looks identical to this all the time, or it's a AMC Harley Davidson brown leather biker jacket that I wear. But this is a padded one. It needs some work. I'll show you what mine looks like, and mine needed the same amount of work as this. I know my light's probably fuzzed out because of the spacing of everything. Now this is mine. Different jacket, just so you can see there's nothing on the back, but this is mine. This is what I wear. I bought this in 97 or 98, I would say. I've had it that long. This is a 60s. This is the original. That other one I just showed you, which is a copy of this one here. It's a Wild Rider is the name of the brand. It's it's not necessarily an off-brand. It has YKK zippers and the whole works. It has the roller buckles again. This is what I like. This is, again, if anybody knows how to get that off. And again, the iron didn't do anything. It was so crusted. That patch that I took off, I sold the patch, but the patch had been on there for, what would it be? That jacket's 79, 80, 40 years probably. Again, I really want to get that off because I like that jacket. It's a little bigger than I would like, just a hair. Mine's perfect size. But anyway, if anybody knows how to get that off, please let me know. That's one of the things that I've always had problems with. I've sometimes spent hours with a knife and carefully, scraped it off and then recolored the leather. I always stitch the issues. I have to stitch that one around the pocket protector fold section up there. But anyway, if anybody knows on that, I would die to know how to fix that. Do you think self-run YouTube auctions will be affected? I can't do a self-run YouTube auction either. If the law is in your state, it doesn't matter where the auction's being run. If it's being run from your state, from your house, from your workplace, it's an auction, and I'd be violating the law by doing a YouTube auction. Like with your questioner, thank you very kindly, Hudson Vintage, for the $5 super chat. Iron with a paper bag to pick up the glue. Doesn't work. It's too old. It's all crusty. It's caked on. I've tried all that. I was an altar boy, and the nuns always told me use a paper bag. So since I was like 9 or 10, I've always known the paper bag trick. It doesn't do anything. I tried hot low. I've tried everything. I've even tried a heat gun, and I don't want to warp or ruin the leather. There's got to be some chemical. I almost was going to use isopropanol, but I didn't. I was worried that might hurt it. But YouTube auctions is the whole reason that I actually looked into getting that permit over a year or so ago, because another YouTuber, his first name's Steve, nice guy, he was doing some. I know he's from Ohio. Anyway, long story short, I looked into it then. And I didn't want to go the route. I didn't think I needed it, but again, now it's totally different. So I couldn't do YouTube live auctions from Ohio right now. I can't do them. It's against the law. I'd be violating by not having an auctioneering license right this second. I can't do YouTube auctions. I can't do Whatnot, Poshmark. If eBay brings them in, I can't do them without a license. I know there's probably going to be tens of thousands of people still doing it, but I'm not going to do it. It's not worth my, things are going good for us. I wouldn't want to blow something or do something stupid. Thank you again, Hudson Vintage. But again, I would say no, 100% can't be done with YouTube or anything else like that. You would be violating the law. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that for any reason whatsoever. Dan, say welcome, Netherlands. Yes, very far away. Welcome. I wonder what time of day it is. I think it would be early morning maybe. Antiquarian Bookman, well, thank you. We're ecstatic. You'll get to see it. We'll do videos. There'll be, because we're gonna be there's some cracks in the concrete. There's concrete in the building. It's like 50 feet by 32 feet or something. It's a long building. It's big. Again, most of the ones in my groups have seen the pictures. I got a little video of us, standing next to it. You can get a reference basically of it. But we're gonna seal it up. I don't know if we're gonna epoxy the floor or not, but it's gonna be. We're going to frame it up too. So I'm going to have a divider section with a lock section, like a lock cage area and stuff like that. And there'll be other areas, or there'll be collectible. A bunch of stuff will be there. So it'll be a multi-purpose for me, a studio and the whole works. So anyway, it's enough. It's bigger than some people's houses. This building, to be honest with you, and we just got lucky. It's been a 9-month process to get here, though. It's taken us 9 months to find a place and get the right offer, the right deal, the right. It had to have a building. I've been talking about it for months and months. It had to have a building where nothing business-wide would ever be in our house ever again. That's the end of it. I'm tired of having to abuse it. I'm lucky though. I've got, my father was a woodworker on his side. He did it in his extra time. He was a hustler. He used to do cabinets, kitchen cabinets. He'd do upholstery and old like cars and race cars, and he'd redo the interiors sometimes too in the garage or fiddle around and stuff. And I've got his workshop, so I've got it's full with records mostly, but I've been lucky with that. I've been lucky that I didn't have to pay for storage, and we've got oodles of shelving. So anyway. But again, there'll be videos on the move and how to do it and easiest way. Most everything is just going to go over in plastic tubs. You know, most of the stuff is in tubs. Even the stuff that's not listed, for the most part, will be moved in tubs. We'll empty some shelves. The shelves will go over, and as we move stuff, we'll just replace them on a shelf, and it'll be ready to go the minute we put them on a shelf, is basically it. I have no problem organizing stuff like that. Treasure Finders 10, welcome. The Disgruntled Octopus. Yeah, you do have a neat name. I like your little emoji there at the back. Kelly Debs, welcome. Hey, Daryl, Carolina Picks, welcome. Daryl's in the house. Hang on, my feed just bounced all over the place. Where we at? Peddling Profits, welcome. Jackie Jack Enterprises, welcome. I don't know where our Jack, my dog, is now, but again, I really want an answer on that leather. And the iron's not it. It may work if it was a little newer. It basically crusted it up, and I was able to crack off the patch. That's the basics. I've sanded it even, trying to get some more, rough it up a little bit to use some cleaners and a few lighter chemicals. But man, it's tough. Infinite Llama, how you doing? Welcome. Joe Snard, welcome. I think I already called out John there. Thanks again. I did see your audio good, Mike. Thank you very kindly. Thank you, Llama, as well. Hey, Mr. Hale. Hi, Bob. How you doing? Loving your video, except the one about the new Ohio law. Yeah, that was disappointing, honestly. It caught me off guard. I spent half a day. We sent it to our lawyer, the legal aspect of it, to have it looked over, to make sure we weren't missing something, make sure there wasn't any added. I spent half a day making sure what the law was on that. Again, just because I didn't want to be in violation because of whatnot was my big worry. But we stopped them before the September 22nd, so I don't have any. They can't come back later on after the fact. It's not retroactive, the law. Again, there could be other states besides the 5-6 that people have shut out. I know there's cities that do it. Just a city or a township. It doesn't have to be your state. So, just be cautious. Be cautious. Again, if you're in Ohio, you probably saw that census that's required legally. It said legally required. I didn't think anything of it. Otherwise, I may have been a little more doubtful on rushing to fill it in. Debbie from Chicago, welcome. I spent a few nights downtown, and we had a cousin that lived down there, and my father grew up with him, and I was like 10. I know this is off the topic, but it was probably one of the neatest things up until that point, because it was foggy and cloudy, and they lived like on the 27th floor of some. It was a really nice place. As a kid, I thought, I don't know what it really was as an adult, but as a kid at 9 or 10, it was a really awesome place, and the clouds were moving in, and it was close to it was, I think, close to Christmas. And looking out their window, they had a panoramic window in the front. It was like 14 feet of glass in their living room, and it was one of the neatest views I'd ever seen, because I didn't feel weirded out by the hike. It was just neat, and Christmas lights and some buildings and stuff. I don't even know where it would have been in Chicago, but that was 40, 50, a long time ago, let's just say. Busy Girl, welcome. Well, thank you as well for the call out on that sound. Jimmy Guns. Well, I went back and forth with YouTube tech support for a while. I talked to 2 or 3 different people because they changed the structure of how our channel runs now. Because I was doing shorts, and I like the short aspect because I can quickly, show something that I don't have to worry about. If I didn't, I have posties everywhere. So if I didn't do some of the shorts, I may never cover that because I move on. I've got so much stuff going on in my head. It seems some days I wish I could shut off part of it, but I can't. I'm stuck with it. So the shorts work for me sometimes because I can just show something really quick that I got right on the tip of my head in a second, as opposed to, having to set up or do anything. When we move, it'll be a lot different. I'll have more space beyond belief and stuff like that. I won't have to have a dungeon or anything anymore. Anyway, I know I'm rambling, but hey, Pat Dees, how you doing there, Mr. Dees, the traveling picker? Alan Thompson, welcome. Thank you very kindly, Alan. Craftomatic, welcome. I like that name, Craftomatic. It reminds me of the Bassomatic from with Dan Aykroyd from the Jets are flying. We got the National Guards not too far away. They were doing runs today, full speed over our house. Hey, Marty, how you doing? Marty, good to see you in house too. Hopefully things are going well on your end. I haven't got a chance to catch one of your vids lately. I got like 90 hours in the last week, probably about 90 hours, and we're probably running close. Semi-choice, semi-not with the house, and we had an issue with the septic and stuff, and the sellers footing the bill, but I've had to be there for surveys, and we're going to have to deal with what they decide on some tree moving, and I don't know. Anyway, it's been a long ordeal. Well, thank you, Nancy. Good to see you in house too. Thank you very kindly, Nancy. It was a surprise for them to give us that email today. First thing I saw was final approval in the subject notes, so I was like, finally we're here. I gave them information ahead of time for some things, and in the past, with trying to get loans and things like that as a reseller, running your own business. If you run your own business and it's like a painting company, or if you have your own store, it's a lot different than being a reseller like us, like anybody out there. Not just me, I'm meaning, but everybody else who does what I do. It's totally different business, and I know how the banking system works. We bought a house years back, lost it during Hurricane Katrina. It was we lost like 50 grand. Anyway, I'm water under the bridge. So I know enough to be careful. I know enough to put down a big enough deposit so you don't have to pay mortgage insurance, because that's a big chunk of change, which we put down a huge chunk. I called out what we paid. I'm going to video part of the closing so you'll get to see a little bit, and that'll be on somewhere else. It's not going to be on the Auction Professor, but just if anybody is interested. There's a lot to it, there's a lot of paperwork and reading and legal mumbo jumbo buying a house and stuff, but having a reselling business, the loan money is hard. We're putting down a very considerable amount of cash for a deposit. It's over a third of the value of the property, the building, the house is what we're putting down in cash. All eBay reselling money, to be straight honest, straight up with you. Without reselling, I wouldn't have this, but the point being, though, if I didn't run everything through my bank, I maybe just kept with PayPal or some online business company, whatever, I wouldn't be where I'm at with the loan and with the mortgage and all that stuff, because they judge you for 3 years of business. They want to see the transactions. You've got to be able to prove payments for taxes and on. Everything that we do has been run through multiple accounts at the bank that we've got the loan through. They gave us the cutthroat rate. We're not doing a long mortgage. The 20-30 year would have been a joke for the percentage and all this. So we've got a very short-term home mortgage with more than the third down that we put off to get the better rate. Again, I buy in bulk to get the better rate. I'm putting more down to get the better rate, to lower the term on it. And we're going to pay it off in a lot less time than the loan on top of it. So again, this is all because of reselling. If I didn't do this all through the bank, if everything they wanted, every proof of income, proof of anything, they have in the bank. So all I got to do is check this deposit, check that, check this, here's the payment notice. And again, I didn't have to supply anything that wasn't at the bank. Totally. It was the easiest process. I couldn't imagine comparing it to the last time with all the stuff and hoops we had to jump in, all the credits and all that stuff. I have a 779 right now is my overall credit score. I had a terrible one last time. I got just enough, credit and promptness and no nothing else at all for a decade plus. And again, that's something we had to work on because we had terrible credit at one time. So It's all, again, following the steps, being a professional business, getting the bank accounts, running business accounts. Accountants help. That's the main way they would verify anybody who's in the business that we are in, basically, would be accountant. But they didn't have to go to that step for us because we had so much other means to report. They looked at our eBay store, and I showed them the back of the house and stuff like that too. Nothing that wouldn't matter too much. They can see my routine weekly deposit. Anyway, long story short, if you're doing okay in the business and you're able to start getting your credit score in order, start getting a relationship with the bank. And I'm not just talking about this because we were able to do it. It's a necessity. It's a necessity. We've got bigger plans. We've already talked and are working on something else past this with our real estate agent going forward as well. So again, this has just opened up world of opportunities for us in many different ways by being legit in every way, shape, or form. I have a full-fledged EIN. I've got all the documents, DBAs, everything to establish myself, and all of that works in your favor. You're not just Dave from down the street who happens to sell things on one site online. You're able to show that you've got a business surrounding it, I guess, is the biggest aspect. And it's taken us 10 years to get here. I'm not saying it's an easy process. We screwed up when we were younger. A lot of people do it, and job-wise was tough, and the economy and on, and the bubble and all that kind of stuff. And again, so right the boat, sail smoothly, get a relationship going with your bank, get a business account. Everything should go through your bank. Don't worry about any of the other sidelines. If you're looking for something out of life, I'm getting older. I don't want to be worrying about renting or storage facilities and all that kind of crap. Truthfully, my costs will be cheaper. I'm cheap, so I don't spend money on much at all, really, honestly. Maybe a new pair of shoes or a belt or a shirt or something tied to an alien movie or something. But other than that, I don't have any big expenses. Cars are paid off and stuff. I don't take credit out unless, obviously, house is a little different story. Again, it's all based on what you want out of life. But any seller who wants to do this for the rest of their life, I would honestly recommend getting your credit scores up, establishing yourself with the banks as soon as humanly possible. You might get in a bind where your business needs this or needs that, and you may not have the funds. And, yeah, sure, PayPal offers us crap all the time and stuff, and eBay's offered us this and that, but, the interest rates are incredibly low. I'm not going to shout out what the bank's giving us, but it's really low. It's well below anyone I've seen published anywhere else. And again, because we're putting a certain percentage of money down, we're taking it for a shorter period of time, so the bank isn't going to have that money tied up. We have no penalties for paying it off early, and on and on and on and on. They pretty much gave us every option that we asked for with this. So again, it's not a brag, but it's taken us 10 years to do it, and it's a concerted effort. I didn't just wake up yesterday and say, I better do something, or I want to do this. We've been working towards this for 10 years. I'm very patient. Again, I'd rather be the tortoise in the hare and get it all straight. This is just the reality of life. I would never, in my wildest dreams, hand to God, swear to you, would ever assume we'd be in this spot to buy a property with a little bit of land and a building and a nice farmhouse built in 1900, and it's on a farm still, and the whole works. So it's reselling. So anything is possible. I'm not trying to be heartsy and emotional strings, but anything is possible. Reselling has been the best gig, the best job, the best form of income I have ever had in my life, hands down. Nothing, even as a regional, when I made 6 digits, this doesn't touch it. I make more than I did with the 6-digit job, making $20,000 bonuses and living in DC and all that crap. My cost of living is cheaper where I live. Part of the reason we live where we live, we're moving to an area where there's even less taxes. It's farther south to closer, better sourcing avenues, closer to Hocking Hills and some other places to go. Easier to get to the flea markets I like to go to. So anyway, there's a lot more opportunities with this. This isn't just me getting a different house. This is us going to be able to expand our business in a drastically different way. Again, that's part of the whole aspect on this. The The bank knows we're going to be able to expand our business. I've talked. We're friendly. They're willing to do another real estate venture right after this one here, right away, if we wish to. So we've got something else going on behind the scenes here that we were contemplating right now. Or we'll buy cash on some land and then use the value of the property. The bank will use that as our guarantee of a loan to do other things. Let's just put it that way. So we've thought this all out. I worked for a national company. I handled a region, so I have a little more experience with financials. I used to have to deal with contracts for property that we bought to open new stores. I used to be the opening store management team for a while too for Einstein Brothers Bagels. When we get to the new place, you'll see my Einstein Brother Bagel full-sized neon sign that I've had for 15 or 20 years from when I worked at Einstein Brothers. So you'll get to see my neon. I've talked about it in the past. It's been in storage for like 15 years, more than that. I had this sign. It's full neon. I got to have one repaired on one side. It's a double-sided neon that used to hang in the window of the Georgetown Einstein Brothers Bagel store. That's where this sign used to hang when I worked in Einstein Brothers as a regional manager in the Washington, D.C. area during the sniper and 9/11 era. I was there for 9/11, but I could finally have room to put that neon sign up. I've got a couple other little neons, but you'll get to see that one. I know I've had somebody ask me before on that one. I'm going to take it into the local place and have them fix one letter has got a crack in it where the center word on one word doesn't line up. But this is the one from the Georgetown Einstein Brothers Bagels, at least the bases. I was responsible for closing down the stores that weren't doing well, and my boss told me, I don't care what you do with them. I ended up having 4 signs from 4 stores. We either moved or upgraded the signs, and I took those 4 and I put one full complete neon sign together. I broke the glass, unfortunately, but the one tube letter, I can't remember which. I think it's the N of Einstein. But anyway, I know I'm rambling. The space, I'm floored. You know what though? The biggest thing me and the wife are looking forward to is seeing what the dogs do in that yard, because it's already fenced. It's got a huge fence. It's like a compound, because there's a garage on top of a decent-sized garage. There's the big building, and then a nice 2+ story house and stuff, and then land and fencing and everything else. So anyway, I can't wait to see the dogs' faces running around in that yard. We've got a decent backyard. It's all fenced, but it'll be nice. It'll be nice to have that for the dogs and stuff too. I can't wait. I like playing fetch. I love the dogs, but anyway. I know I've rambled for another little long while of time. New to the provisions, welcome. Dave, Midwest Picker, another YouTuber in house. How you doing, Dave? Good to see you in house. Michelle, hey, how you doing, Michelle? Hopefully things are going good on your end. Michelle's been with this channel for a very long time. Years, I know that. Horologist, 1994. Let me move on. Guten Abend, thanks, Mike. Wanda Arnold, how are you doing, Wanda? Wonder if your business was registered in another state, if that would cover anyone. It's the place of business. It doesn't matter where it's registered. In the state of Ohio, somebody mentioned, hey, well, incorporate in a different state. I know you can legally incorporate in another state and still run a business in this state, but it's the physical presence of where the items are stored and where the auction's going off, which matters, not where the business was registered. You would still be reporting, you'd have to report the taxes because that's the state that they were earned in, regardless of where the business is registered. When I worked for Einstein, I worked and covered Washington, Virginia, and Maryland. I had 34 stores or so. And I had to deal with the aspect of money being made for a national company in multiple states, and there was different regulations per state. Even though they were all in my district, under my control, those 30 some odd stores, I still had to deal with multiple states. The District of Columbia was probably one of the worst because D.C. was Washington, Virginia, and Maryland. And the District of Columbia was probably one of the worst and stuff. When I did Annapolis, we had some special regulations I had to deal with too, because we did the Naval Academy out there had an Einstein Brothers on it, and you had to, anyway, long story short, I know I'm rambling again. I try not to ramble too much about eBay and YouTube or reselling related stuff. If it's flips, it ships 101. When you apply to get a job, you have to fill out a Homeland Security form, and they want to know your second or third job. I don't know about the Homeland Security. I know I helped my son when he originally applied for solar. But there was no Homeland Security, and that was recently. You do have to do any prior jobs, they references, and he had to go through a whole bunch of stuff to do background checks on people. They do that for an apartment, for crying out loud, these days. Amanda McCarthy, welcome in. I was reading, and it looks like Florida has been trying to do this since 2005. That's the date when the original... That's about the time frame, and that's about the time frame, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in that range or a few years after that. By 2008, eBay was already looking into that aspect, and I think that's about when bins, buy it now options, started to come into play. I know for a fact, I was in auctions. I helped out an auctioneer in Florida. We used to live in Florida, Claremont area, Mineola, and there was on 27, there used to be a big mall up there, and one of the people there did auctions, and I helped out a couple times just to get dibs on a few things that they got in sometimes. They would call me after that. So I volunteered a few nights and stuff. Florida has been messing around with that for a while because, if I'm not mistaken, there was a large number of regulations that you had to meet and this and that, and they checked up on you and all kinds of. They wanted to see receipts. They wanted to see your escrow accounts for your items you sold for each individual. They had to match up numbers and all. I mean, it was a big ordeal, if I remember right. I know because I used to read off the numbers at the end, what sold, and write down anyway. I've had auction firm license since 2015 when in Columbus. They had told us all you can not sell online auction style unless a licensed auctioneer did so for us. Yeah, see, we're going to get it at this point. Just to say I have it, I guess, and I will be one up. So yeah, it's a good thing, Peddling Profits. Good for you, I'm sure. There's an auction firm license and there's an auctioneering license. So there's two of them. I guess I could go either route on it. From my understanding, just because we are basically a business with employees and the whole work. So, on the whatnot, I had helpers, so it wasn't like it was just me running the auctions. Utah does not require a license yet. You might check on your local town, municipality, or whatever the case may be. Just because the state doesn't, local places may. They may want the revenue, so just be careful. Would be a live auction. So if you're doing Seth here, so Seth's saying the only time live auction. So if you're doing whatnot, that's a live auction. You're doing a YouTube auction, that's a live auction. eBay's been talking about running live auctions. So, that would eliminate you from the ability to do those. Your competitor could just report you. So, there's incentives for people not to do it because your competitor the guy 2 blocks down who runs a competitive auction could shut you down and get out your business. So that there's a danger in that. So I would never do it without a permit after what came out. There's articles hitting now with the news with this, reseller news pages and stuff. This does seem to be, where it's going. That's why I said this is the biggest threat. From what I was told, it was. In my opinion, it seems to be, too, probably caused by whatnot entering the field and allowing it. My first impression of whatnot, no disrespect to anybody, I've done it, it's okay, but my first impression was it was the Wild West. It looked like there were some 14 and 15-year-old kids auctioning off. The first day I looked on whatnot, I'm like, this is a joke. It didn't seem very serious. And still a lot of the ones I see are people with very little, knowledge of business the way it seemed. At least they were just trying to make a quick buck. And I think that's, again, it teed off people here who had to spend thousands of dollars a year, and they're competing against people who don't do any of that. They're not required to. And again, I see the auctioneer's point. I know some auctioneers. I buy at auctions, and they're driving a fine line because people like us buy from them. So they're selling stuff to people who are then competing against them. So they're selling merchandise to local live auction people. They're selling merchandise that it's going to end up competing against them for people on live auctions. And that's the deal that's ticked off people here in this state. Again, I completely understand that aspect of it. I didn't see it coming. I'm blindsided. I totally was worried about something else. I didn't imagine that there would be a way to block that sort of thing. And again, somebody could come in and say, well, if without a license, we don't want you doing this, this, or this. Who knows? I mean, I have a business license to do this type of business. I'm registered to do this type of business. Again, no auctions, it doesn't say technically, but, everything else I'm considered retail. Now, I know people say, well, best offer would be considered, like a offer like in an auction. Well, it's not, and I'm going to tell you why. Because the flea market licenses that we've had in the past to basically allow you to barter for the prices of something. And just like a grocery store, I've bought stuff at Walmart, I've bought stuff at Kroger's, Myers, less than the list price, because I said, hey, what if I buy 10 of these? What if I buy all you have in your clearance section? Nuts, peanuts, or walnuts and stuff, pecans. I've done that for years now. We buy them after season, and I turn around and list them on Amazon, 5-pound bags at a time. So on stuff like that, I've always bartered with them. That would mean they can't do it, because there's no difference between me offering them less money buying quantity or somebody on eBay offering me less money for an item too. It's the same principle. So it's technically defined in every case I've seen. The best offer option is defined as just barter of a retail business, and that's not considered an auction. I don't have a defined date. I'm not advertising it. I'm not stating it's an auction. Again, there's maybe some other stipulations that are in some of the coding, but from all accounts, that's the difference, and that's why. And again, eBay is a facilitator. The law in this state says a facilitator. And if I'm using a facilitator, that counts as an auction, live or not, counts as an auction. So anyway, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse there, but you got to be careful these days. This snuck up on a lot of folks, me personally, and again, I'm sure there's going to be a ton of people still selling on these platforms and still selling here in Ohio and whatnot. But going forward, I saw a copy of a letter sent out. Let's just put it that way. I'm not going to share it because I have no permission to share it. It was personal to somebody, and it came from the state. Again, I just did a survey, or a census, a business census, and I was a little concerned now that I figured out, hey, they're tied together. So there's rumblings going on. Again, somebody saying since 2005 on Florida. I vaguely remember that. We lived in Florida for 10 plus years or so. And I vaguely remember that. I used to do flea markets and auctions and all that stuff way back in the day too. So, hey Matt Jake, how are you doing? The bids, you don't have to, the site calls out the bids, so you better watch the terminology, Seth, on that too, because calling out the bids could be considered the site posting the new bid. That's all in this state, that's all that's required for that terminology, and it's banned either way without a permit. So be cautious on what that terminology means in your state. It's the legal definition of it, not what you would think or any logical person would think. Do you cross out logic and take it from a standpoint of a politician thinking they can get tax money on something? That's the benefit of it. That's the difference of it, So, hey, Matt Jake again. Hopefully I didn't miss you just a second ago. Vintage Indiana, how are you doing? I will work for welfare, laugh out loud. Nah, I would never want to do that. I run amok, lurker while I drive. Just be careful on the road. It is unfair business practices, period. Yeah, I agree that it's unfair if you're talking about, somebody doing it without the permit while somebody else is forced to get a permit. And with your case, as you said, you were doing those auctions. So totally different story for you personally. But again, I understand fully the unfair aspect about it. I completely get it. I completely get it. I wished I would have thought about that and saw more into this, and I would have probably just did it a year and a half ago or whatever, even if I meant the intern, because I knew somebody I could have interned. It wouldn't have been nearly as bad, and I would have got to see some cool stuff, maybe even got some stuff before it even went to auction or leftovers. Who knows? So it might have been okay. But my time sometimes just is drastically abused. The course here for the auctioneering license now, It's what did it say? What was it? I think it's 20 hours, and there's Zoom classes you can do. So, and then again, you're gonna have to study for there's a test. The test is offered once a month. I've already looked into it. I've already pulled an application, and I've already called 3 schools. I wanted to know too, because somebody else said, well, the schools aren't saying this. So I called a couple of schools. They just haven't updated their website. So they're aware that there's probably going to be a swarm of people coming in and doing this. So I want to be in the line right away to get it done first is what we're thinking. So we'll be moved in hopefully 37 days, 38, 40 days or something. And as soon as that's done with, I'll hopefully be able to roll right into knocking it out. It'll cost a couple grand for the classes, but maybe I can get a deal with somebody I know. I'm hoping, because I know one of the people that runs them. She runs one of the auction things around here. And I've been in with somebody that she deals with very well, so I'm hoping I can maybe get an in on something there. But Hey, Craig, Landshark Picker, another fellow YouTuber in house. Yeah, I'm terrible on calling out thumbs up, but if you're enjoying the conversation, please slam that thumbs up. I got 268 people in house. I've got 109 thumbs up. I always like to at least get to 100, so that's a good feeling to know that we got at least 100 in house now. Hudson Vintage. Do you think Whatnot situation is going to affect self-run auctions on YouTube? It's 90% of my income. I can only, if you're in Ohio, you have something to worry about, Hudson Vintage. I can tell you without a doubt. If you're running them on YouTube, you're off the grid, so to speak. The whole thing with me, why I even looked into this, was I thought the YouTube auction aspect. I saw Wade's Ventures did one a long time ago, and I thought I didn't think much of it. And Wade seems like a very nice guy. I've talked to him many times, but I looked into it after Steve, somebody that I've talked to before, and I want to say I've been in a couple of feeds on somebody else's channel with him before too, maybe. But he was doing one. It happened to pop up. I rarely get to see any of that stuff, and it was just a while ago, like more than a year ago. And again, as I said, I asked about this, and I was intrigued because I thought there's got to be some regulation on this, but at the point there wasn't, and now there is. So if you're in Ohio, you can't run any of the YouTube auctions. You can't run a live auction. You can't run a online auction at all without being, if you're doing over $10,000. Let me again preface that with the $10,000 mark there. But I could sell $10,000 worth of merchandise at an auction in 1 week, and then I could never do them again for the rest of the year. So, it puts you in another bind there, and what you want to do with that. That's just my take on it. Auction Monkey. We use high bid, have a state business license. We're a member in a good standing with the Maryland Auction Association. The Auction Monkey's great. They're all set up. That's the spot we want to be in a couple of months. So I'm going to bust it. I'm going to get it done, and we're going to have it. I'll be able to call myself officially the auction professor because I'll have an auctioneering license, I guess. I don't know. People ask, well, you don't do auctions. Why do you call the auction professor? I've had that name for like a decade. So just FYI, auctions used to be the thing. I used to love doing auctions on eBay. The last couple minutes, everybody used to hang out and watch. Sometimes there'd be friends over and stuff we'd run them, period time every week they'd end. And anyway, I'm, again, digressing again there. Good for you, Auction Monkey. I'm sure that would be a reason. But I'm going to get it. I already told the wife we'll shell out a couple grand on it and be done. It's a tax write-off. It's a business expense, so, we're doing fine. I don't have much to worry about on that aspect. Land of the free, doubt. Jack Day Williams. I can understand it. I hate to say it, but I can understand it. And I can understand the worrisome. The aspect of it is you're dealing in other people's belongings. And there's a proneness for theft and people trying to scoop somebody out just to make a bigger profit. And if I'm going to deal with somebody like in an auction, sell their stuff, I'm 100% open. They know everything that I'm doing. I want them to know ahead of time the exact dollar amount, the percentage they'd get, whatever I think, all the guarantees that I would offer ahead of time in writing whenever I've sold something for somebody else. I go the extra mile. I've even had our lawyer look at it back when we wrote that out. So everything was done legally to the T and everything else. I wrote it out, had them okay it, and verified that there wasn't anything I missed. And I have a contract that we still have laying around here. I understand it. I've had cases where had I not had that document signed by the person I was selling their items, they got mad about the price. I agree. They said, yeah, we're fine with you doing it this way, this way. I explained to them the options. They said this way would be quicker running the auction versus a bid. And people get mad when it doesn't go where they want it to go. But it's out of your control. If they force an auction, that's what, again, back in the day, it goes for what it goes for. You're taking a risk, in my opinion, running an auction that there'll be enough people on to raise the price enough. So thank goodness I had it. They were going left and right, but I warned them ahead of time the risk factors. So again, I'm a risk avoider. Risk management is a thing I try to worry about 24/7. Long trout. Michigan, I've been told Michigan does not, but you better be careful on the city-wise because somebody else said that they thought Detroit had one. I don't know. I've been to auctions in Detroit, honestly. I've been to a couple of the flea markets on it's near the airport. Jeez, I can't think what the place is called. Darn it. Midland. I can't think of that. There's an auction up there, or a flea market, a big flea market outside flea market up there that I've been to. Again, if it's not in your state, you don't have anything to worry about. But if this takes off, there's already at least 5 states from what I've been told, as well as cities. There may be 15 states. There may be 20 states. When a law or something goes into effect in more than 25 states, usually it'll go nationwide. Just the way it is, like the marijuana laws and stuff. Our state originally said no, they turned it down. Now they've passed marijuana laws. Now they've laxed the laws. Now they've done this. So now the next step is going to be recreational, just like in Michigan over the border. To be honest with you, the police don't do anything about it anymore, because so many people have the card now. I think there's like 200,000 people in the state of Ohio that have a marijuana card. I can go down and get one right now. I've got enough medical issues to get one without any issues. They've even recommended it to me at one point. So, and for my foot and some of my massive pain issues with that foot of mine. Anyway, so it's the same basic principle. Yeah, Kelly's saying would eliminate competition for those who don't want one. Yeah, again, that's why we're going to get one. But I don't know how many people are going to know it's the fact, or how many people are going to worry or even care about it. Probably more than half, I would guess, wouldn't change a thing they're doing now, or would just simply go over to bin listings and just bins in general. We personally changed to bins years ago before we even thought about worried about an auctioneering license or anything. Bins, for the most part, get you more money. We just price them super high. I mean, there's so many times when somebody else is selling something, I recommend this or that, and they want to do the auction or whatever, and the auction just doesn't go as high because the right person's not online at the right time. With a bin, the person there in an auction may not have had to pay as high as he would buying it on a bin, because he doesn't know what you're thinking or where your price is at or whatever the case may be. Or he may feel that enough people would bid against him where he would get outbid, so he's going to buy it at a higher price than he might have gotten for if he just went at auction. That's factual. Look it up. Look up yourself. Run some tests, man, if you don't buy what I just said, because that's true. I swear to you, that's true across the board. I don't know how many sellers, bigger sellers that I've talked to that feel the same exact way with what I just stated. I feel that's a truthful statement all the way around in every aspect on that. Where are we at? Wanda Arnold. Who are behind or lobbying for this. Again, the auctioneers who had to pay for the license and had to file all the legal requirements, had to be bonded, had to do the police reports and the checkups and keep up this yearly, and had to add interns. That's who's pushed this. I don't blame them. I don't blame them. I know it could hurt me, and it's hurting a lot of people that I know, but I don't blame the people for that, because I never thought it's an unfair advantage for those who don't have the permit, who are doing exactly what the auction houses do here in this state now, who are required to spend thousands of dollars to hold that permit and follow certain regulations that Joe Schmo down the street isn't doing, but he's doing the exact same job as the auctioneers are doing. Whether they're calling it, you got to admit, anybody who does whatnot or has been on there knows it's live, just basically a real full-fledged basic auction. And again, if your state has regulations, my assumption, if they don't change this law, at some point, whatnot's going to have to face, and it's going to go to court. It's the same principle as Uber. Uber went to court all over the place over it to get the rights to be able to do it without having this and that and on and on and on. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing it's at risk of floating across the country right now. Again, my personal, if there was a risk at all, it's this. And it's this if they advance what they state is. And again, if they want to get the little people out, it's not eBay trying to get the little sellers out, in my opinion, at this point. It's the possibility of politicians or local officials wanting to get the tax dollar and figuring another way to do it. That's it. That's the end of story. And I'm not saying it's good, bad, or indifferent. I don't want to pay more taxes, but if something good comes of it, I don't feel as bad about doing it. But there's another. Oh, I forgot. I hate to hit everybody else with something else going on now, but we got to talk about Canada. I'll have a video about this, maybe even I'll put it up tomorrow, but a couple people have reached out to me, including a Canadian purchaser of military. He buys buttons from me. And I think it's Montreal where he's at. I could be wrong. Maybe it's Ontario. It doesn't matter, but there's right now, Providence in Canada, there's several of them, are doing basically the same step that just happened in Germany, and England's working on now with waste disposal of shipping supplies. If it goes over in one province in Canada, it'll go across the entire country of Canada. So that means you'd have to register. And I sell a pretty good amount of stuff to Canada and England these days. So you would have to get a permit and other stuff. That's going on right now. I looked it up. There is some talk. There is some stuff. There is some processes going on right now. That just was brought to my attention in the last 2 days. So I'm worried that at one point it'll be not cost productive to sell outside of this country, and it will cut off parts of my business to England if England goes full steam with what Germany did as well. Maybe it'll be worth it. Maybe for the investment and my estimates of supply wastage, it might be worth it. But again, this is coming down the line. And I got no conversation with somebody over this. This isn't me. Look it up yourself. I don't remember the terminology, but I still have several emails, including a screenshot from one of the pages from Canada about this. So if there's a Canadian out there who's a reseller, please holler out in here, affirm what I'm saying out there, because this is what I've heard and what I've personally seen from several people. I don't trust anything if I hear it from just one or two people, but I've now heard it from several people, and it's gotten to be the talk now of some people in certain areas in Canada. So this could put a damper on it. If Canada does it, the U.S. could do it. So again, there could be some big changes coming across, not just the auction part, but we could be attacked from another side with the shipping supplies and waste disposal and recycling and all that kind of going green. I don't have a problem with going green, but the everything takes a dip out of it. eBay's costing us with a new raise on fees. I know it doesn't sound like a lot at 0.35, but that's $700 or so I'm going to pay eBay every year because of the amount of sales we have. Extra, beyond what I did. If I got to spend a couple more $100 a year on an auction license, if I decide that auctions may be good because not many people are doing them because now there's legalities involved, maybe it'll be better. But, I'll have to play it by ear and stuff on that. But so there are a lot of potential changes. A few years ago, I would have never guessed that I wouldn't be selling to France or Germany anymore. I used to sell a lot to Germany, but with VAT coming in play, that's cut off German sales. Luckily, we've been able to, bring the sales back from other things that we started to sell, but it just takes time to recategorize and shift your business a little bit in certain areas. I used to make money on certain items going to Germany all the time. And a lot of like wine labels and vintage. So I made thousands and thousands of dollars in some months just selling vintage Rhine wine labels and stuff from the 1870s, 80s, and stuff like that. And a lot of paper items, military items and stuff, Victorian era items and stuff. But it dried up once the VAT came in. So we've had to seek, and I stopped buying it because it wasn't worth it because I didn't have the German buyers. That leads to a whole nother opportunity for business though too. Airlines, Inc. or whatever, the forwarding services. I'm looking for a forwarding service to purchase some items from France because the guy won't ship it to us. There's some there's some Weebles on eBay France, and the seller, there's 3 items we've been wanting, and I've been bugging him. He hasn't sold them for a year. I've been watching these for a year, and I can't find a forward shipper to purchase them for us, or we'd purchase them, then getting them to us off the platform. I've even reached out to Loupe just to see if maybe they could. I haven't got a response back to see if he'd buy them for me, because I've bought from them too, the big French vintage toy store over there, Loupe. I've got a video on that too. If you ever get a chance, Loupe has a lot of cool stuff. When I get foreign toys, I usually use those types of places for pricing them even. So let me pop back over here. I know we're rambling around again. Yeah, it cuts into the auctioneer's business. It gives them unfair advantage to their competition. I buy from some of these local auctioneers here sometimes, stuff that I resell. How would you like selling to somebody some of your items? You could have got more money maybe if you pieced them out, but you're running an auction business, so you sell them to somebody, and then you're going to auction off them live on an online thing, and the guy you just sold to is now your competitor getting buyers to go to him instead of you. That's the point. Again, I'm fully with the auctioneers right now. I understand that. I get it. I'm not mad about that aspect. I'm mad that I didn't see it coming personally. I missed it. I even looked into the darn thing. I actually was going to get one. And I said, nah, it's probably not worth financially me spending the time or money and intern. And I even did a calculation of the hours that I have to put in and the time frame. And nowadays it'd be a lot easier. So anyway. Time to employ an auctioneer, Amanda McCarthy. Yeah, I'm going to get it. I promise you. Get it. It depends on your state. Anybody who's in Ohio, you got to worry a little bit now. Michigan is trying, but it hasn't gotten past any committee yet. So see, here's John. Michigan's trying to right now. They're right next to us. I guarantee you any law that passes here, they know about in Michigan. You can live in Michigan and attend the local colleges here at the same rate as the residents. They've got a pact with Michigan. I don't know if anybody knows that, but there's a pact, educational pact, as well as some business pacts. So I could have attended Monroe Community College or one of the universities on the southern part of Michigan at the resident rate in Michigan, even though I live in Ohio. If you don't know, college-wise, there's a residency rate. So if you're not from the state, you pay more, and it's a lot more, sometimes 3 and 4 times the price. Out-of-state residency fees, that's what it's called. So just FYI. Twisted. West Virginia has had the law for auctions online without a license, and it's been here for at least 5 years I know of. So you have to have a license in West Virginia. Somebody else told me that too. I'll holler that out because that is one of the states. Somebody told me you had to have a license to run an auction. Howdy, one. I'm from Florence area. Huh. Vintage Vanya. So now we all have to get the auctioneer license if you live in the state that requires it. It's not every state. Some states have no requirement whatsoever. I think Utah, several people said Utah. Check on your state. Now, maybe they'll never catch you. I don't know, but if I know it's a law and I know it's a law, I'm not going to violate it. I don't care if no one would catch me or who's going to go after you. In the state of Ohio, there are legal ramifications. The court, read the document. I read through the whole thing just because I'm anal retentive about that. That's why I spent half a day on this. And they can take you to court. They can issue a cease and desist. They can hold you in contempt of court, which means they could put you in jail if you don't follow the rules. So this isn't like just, slap on the wrist, big deal, they caught you. If they catch you and you were violating it, they will shut your whole business down. Not just the business you're doing for the auction, but everything for violating the rules and knowingly doing so. So again, you're risking part of your business. You're risking your whole business to keep part of your business is how I would see it. And I would never do that. I don't want, again, I get haters. So somebody would turn me in if I did it probably anyway, just to try and shut me down. So again, I wouldn't do it anyway, but that's just the point. Yeah, I'm not panicking. I'm not freaking out. I understand. I'm with the auctioneers. I just never thought of that. I never thought about the whatnot aspect of it with it. I gave up on it because I knew what the law was just over a year ago. I still have the application from over a year ago. I mean, I even still have the documents what I dug up, and I still even have the cost factors written down here somewhere. Again, because I'm anal retentive and I keep that kind of crap, and most other people just have trashed it. But hey, Leland, how are you doing? Good to see you in house as well. You already know what we're talking about because I posted it in Patreon a day or so ago, but. DD Major. Yeah, I would just be cautious because if it is a law in your state, you don't have to do the cadence at all, from what I understand, at all. I've been to auctions here, and I've never heard anybody do any of that cadence with the repetition and the fast talking like you see. Those are more like, I'll take that back. At an auction that I've attended to buy something, I've never seen it, but we went to, a cousin of mine was in 4-H years back, and that's how they did the calls like that for all the livestock auctions. And maybe one time in Florida, not here, but maybe one time in Florida, we were at one up in, it was near the Panhandle. I can't remember the city. Beulah, maybe something like that. Maybe that's what it was. But they were auctioning off massive, there's like hundreds of chairs, and he was going real quick and, counting his quantity of 5. I mean, I've seen it maybe once, I guess. I have to think back. I don't want to say I haven't, but never around here. I've never seen cadence anywhere around here, Mississippi, or anywhere between other than that one that I would say in Florida. Yeah, mother's mustache. You may have to, depending on where you live on. That's the only factor I would say. Whether you do it or not, you're putting yourself and your business at risk. I don't care if the risk is a half of a percentage point. I'm not going to do it just because of that half percentage point. Because with my luck, the wrong person would see it at the wrong time, and then I'd be shut down. Fabulous Flamingos. Well, thank you. The closing date, we could have, if I would have signed it off, we're not signing off on it until we get it's on us now. When I sign it, then they start everything. So they're waiting on me. They've been bugging me every day now that it's all in my hands. They want to get their commission, I'm sure. I don't mind. That's how I work, how I live. I live off the commissions and my selling fees and stuff. So I don't mind. But until we get the escrow done on the septic, I'm not going to sign it. I already told them. I said if it takes till the 22nd, I'm fine with waiting to then. We'll close by the 22nd, 100%. If I sign the paperwork tomorrow, we would close on the 15th in 6 days, to be honest. So it's way sooner than, time's flying. I know we've been in this process the house has been under contract for weeks now, but it's there. We're done. Anyway. There's at least 5 or 6 states, I'll reiterate, there's at least 5 or 6 states that have this same basic law, and towns, municipalities, and stuff like that. Townships may even have it. So just because your state doesn't have one doesn't mean your local place does, or doesn't, I mean. So again, I've had people tell me their city does, but the state doesn't. So it's on you. It's on you. I'm not going to state for fact on anything that I didn't look up. I know what the Ohio is, but there could be 10, 15, 20 states. I don't know. There could be a lot and just didn't know about it. I didn't know about this one for months. It was past September, I think, 22nd. So, anyway. Where do we hop on? Puddings, postcards. I'm leaving it there. I've had the auction professor for years. I had it before I even thought about YouTube. Somebody used to call me that, and I've always done it. But I used to do auctions. The only reason I'm here is because of auctions online. That's all there was when I started eBay. That's it. Auctions. It had to be an auction. You didn't have any other option. Yeah, thanks, DD Mager, however that would be pronounced. Sherry, thank you very kindly. Yes, Bob, it is, Mr. Hale. It's very wonderful news. I almost woke the wife up earlier when the notice came in. But I wasn't going to do it. I said, no, I'll surprise her when she's up. She hasn't been feeling very well, under the weather. But anyway, it was a finally we're done and no more worries. We were worried that the septic issue would set it off, and the escrow issue was worrisome. The appraisal was a worry. The appraisal came through with flying colors. I was very happy with the appraisal. That building helps. There's a nice building on there for our business, and I think that's the biggest plus factor. Don't get me wrong. For the amount, I could have just went out and bought a house in town for cash. My deposit, I could have even had a few extra bucks with the amount of money we're putting down on the deposit on the property we are buying. But I have to have the land. I want it. We used to live on land, and that's the one thing I've always wanted. We have to have some land with a building, and I have to have room to expand if I want to build something else out there. That's the factor, and it's very slim pickings in this area in a reasonable rate with a nice house. We looked at some really trashy ones that sold for $50,000 more than what we're paying for this one, just because it was a couple miles closer to whatever it was. We got a good school district. We got low taxes where we're at. We're farther or closer to places we want to be at, and it's better for my kids and everything else. The crime rate is almost nothing where we're at. Anyway, it's a good move. It's where we wanted to be. Same area. We picked an area on the map, and Nancy, our realtor, she sent us anything we had, and it's taken a long time to get this far. But I thank you, Bob. I appreciate that greatly. Let me pop on down. We're running bound to the end about here. Dirty riches. This law is going to be devastating to line storage unit sales platforms. They may already have a license or have a licensed auctioneer come down when they do some of these, maybe, because I know some of the ones around. I've been to a few storage locker auctions in the past, And I got to know one of the guys that runs one of these places. I went to school with the kid. We weren't friends in college or in high school, but I went to school. I say kid. He's not a kid. He's my age, but he was a year younger than me. So we knew who we were, I guess, is the point. So, I mean, he gave me some insider stuff, and he would tell me sometimes when something cool was there that I might be interested in. But some of them have it. They have an auctioneer there the day they do the live ones. They'll do online and live. So it'll be live, but it'll be online and in person. So you can bid either way you want. You can do absentee, bids and stuff too. Yeah, we did get the house. Mother's mustache. It's done. I've got the final approval letter in hand in here. I've got the congratulations letters from the bank, from all of the assistants, the reps, the loan, the underwriters, and all that kind of stuff too. So, and it's actually we're paying $2,200 less than I was quoted initially. So that was happy. I got that leather jacket. Believe it or not, I was very happy with that. As soon as I got it home, I conditioned it. So I got to condition it 2 more times, and then I'm gonna fix the color and stitch it, and then I have to worry about that patch. I guess I'll just, since no one's hollered out it, maybe I'll have to flip through. Maybe somebody came up with it later, but I'll have to try isopropanol. So I'll have to see if that works. Vintage Indiana, thank you. Hey there, hang on. Justin confused. What is going on? McGrath, I would go back and watch it from the beginning. I talk about it immediately when the video started today. This is for Ohio, but there's other states that have the same law. Here's one. Dreaming Buys. When I signed up for sales tax license in 2016 in Texas, that was one of the options if you were an auctioneer. Is this something new? It may not have been. There may be an auctioneer license in Texas that's always been there, and people just don't know it. And again, it goes county by county possibly. So if you just have I have an Ohio State. We've got a tax ID from the state and a couple other things from the state. And then I also have county licenses as well. We've got DBAs through the state on top of that for several entities. Every time you run a different entity, you should always get a DBA. So that's not tied to the main one. And anyway, S Corp. And anyway, I know I'm rambling. A lot of people might not know what I'm thinking about, those. It's kind of like, here's Peddling Profits. I'm on your side, trust me. It's kind of like if you're a licensed real estate agent, then all of a sudden everyone and their mother are now selling real estate without a license. Is that right? No, it's not. Again, I fully agree. I'm on your side, Peddling Profits. I get it. There's not really a list that I'm aware of. You're going to have to go state by state. I did talk to Ina. She may get into it and look into it and post something. But again, major reason why I've always looked at e-commerce bites. That's my go-to place for finding out anything if I want to quickly find out the information. Even if you just look at the titles of her posts. But again, I do write for her. I'm not being pushy just because of that. I've always read her stuff for like 10, 15 years before I've ever been on YouTube. Just what I do. Sweden, Heddenberg. PA has always had auctioneer license requirements. There you go. Yeah, I see the thing with, I'm going to get it. I promise you, I'll get it. You'll see it. I'll show you the process. But the thing of it is, if you're a small seller, it might not be worth it. It's going to be close to $3,000. I can pretty much tell you right off the bat. Test is a few $100s. There's, background checks cost you money. The application fee costs you money. So, I mean, it's going to be close to $3,000 initial investment. And then I think every other year it's $200. Plus you got to take classes 8 hours every year, I think is what it said. And those classes could theoretically cost you $500 a pop based on what 20 hours cost you, So there's a there's a cost factor. How many smaller sellers are going to be able to afford it in this state, spending $3,000 just on something, to auction? They may just decide to go best offer. I know this was brought up to eBay too. eBay deleted the posts. I went and looked. So there's 3 or 4 people who've told me they've posted this on eBay's message boards, asking for a response, and eBay deleted those. I was told it was deleted off Facebook. I don't usually check eBay for Facebook, but I was told they deleted it there as well too, and they're not addressing it. And the one response that someone did post a screenshot of their conversation with eBay themselves, the basic gist of it was, it's on you. We're not responsible for you to get a license. You're welcome to sell, but you have to take care of any legal aspects in your own area. It's not our doing. It has nothing to do with us, basically. You're on your own, is basically what eBay said. What, again, that's fine, I guess, because it's not eBay's fault that a state instigated a law. They're not going to fight for it, in my opinion. You know, a lot of eBay money is coming from auctions. You know, the $5,000 purses and all that kind of crap too. So that's just my take. Twisted, I know a couple businesses in Virginia that run FB auctions by going live, but they don't have the law like this. Maybe they do in their city. Again, it's not just statewide. It might be city by city. Yeah, it takes an effort to obtain your auctioneer license. That being said, that is completely different than a reselling license that only a handful of states require. You have to have a license in every state, as far as I know, at least for something, to run a business. You will at least have to have a federal EIN number, employer identification number. I guess maybe you don't in some areas, but I would always recommend getting one because it's the only way you can get a business account bank. If you want a bank account for your business, you have to have an EIN in every bank that I know of, at least in this state. You know, and that's another reason. Plus, if you want employees, you have to have an employer identification number. We have employees, so I have an EIN. I've had one for years, a decade probably or more. And yes, it does take an effort. You have to study and all kinds of stuff. I'm in PA, and when I signed up for Whatnot, there was no reference to needing any sort of... Whatnot is not responsible, Marty, to tell you anything. Somebody's already addressed it to Whatnot, from what I understand. I'm trying to get a copy of their response right now, but I would think the onus should be on Whatnot. It is not on Whatnot. Whatnot, eBay, Poshmark, YouTube, none of them are responsible for what you are doing on their platform. It is not. They're allowed to run auctions in your state, and it's up to you to determine what's legal or not legal. I'm telling you straight off. So if it's illegal in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, or whatever you're at, you doing it on Whatnot is illegal too. I'm telling you right off. I know in Ohio what it is because I asked. I called the Department of Agriculture myself. I'm not going to trust somebody else's word that that's what it is. I wanted a call. So I would be hesitant if Whatnot's not telling you. They don't have to. eBay's not telling you. And it's been a law in some states for years now, apparently, that you can't do auctions at all, even online. Again, in my state, eBay, Whatnot is considered an auction facilitator, basically, is the gist of it. And if I do it that way, I'm still doing an auction. eBay isn't technically doing the auction. It's my item. I set the price. I sit there. I send the item out. I possess the item. I'm the auction person. eBay's just the facilitator. It was like if I bought a software to run an auction for me out of my business. The software's not doing the auction. I'm doing it. I'm just using the software. eBay's a third party. Whatnot's a third party. You're just using that to auction your items off. They're not doing it. It's not. The onus isn't on them to provide you with that information. So whether Whatnot said it or not, I know. Whatnot didn't tell me there was any permit license or anything needed. And I know for a fact that I need it now. You know, so that's just my take. I'm just putting it out there. I looked into this. I spent some hours looking into this because I was a little concerned. I've got friends. I've got people who have kids and do a lot of auctions. I know people who just do Whatnot auctions here in this state. They can't afford to get a auctioneering license, and that's the biggest drawback there. It will crush small sellers who refuse to do buy it nows. You have to go to buy it nows, or they'll just ignore it and hope no one catches them. You know, there's a lot of people who still don't pay income tax on the eBay money. And they think they're not going to catch them. Just like the folks who think that, you know, it's a new rule that it's got to report it if you made over, you know, now you're taxed if you make anything over 600. You've always been taxed for anything over 600, or supposed to. You just haven't been reporting it because eBay wasn't reporting it. It's the same basic principle. It's going to catch up to you is the problem. Anyway, we're going to let it go at that. I think that covers the topic here at least. Who knows how many states there are. I'm not going to waste my time looking, but I would recommend you looking into your own state so you're not caught off guard like we were on this whole aspect of it. I had been talking about doing more Whatnot auctions, and I'm so glad I haven't. Again, I don't want to be penalized. I don't want to be in court. If they shut your business down for running auctions, they're not just shutting down your auction aspect. They're shutting you down totally. That's what it says. You know, I'm sure there's 100,000... auction people who do eBay auctions and listings in Ohio alone, I would imagine. Maybe not, but I would imagine there's quite a bit. But Anyway, we're going to let it go at that. I do appreciate everybody coming on. If you haven't slammed that like button, thumbs up, please hit that thumbs up button down there. Show some love for the channel. Again, that's what's going on. We got the Canadian issue. Look it up. Look it up. It's really going on, as well as the auctioneering aspect of it. But I do appreciate everybody coming on. Once again, slam the thumbs up, and I'll see you on the next round.